Hello, welcome everyone. I'm the Reverend William Levwood, the minister here at Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. My pronouns are he and him. As we begin our special service today, I invite you to silence your phone if you're in the sanctuary, to close your windows on your computer if you're at home, to take a deep breath and center yourself for worship. We open in welcome to the ancestral people of this land, acknowledging that this church, like all of Burke, rests on the unceded territory of the Manahoac tribe of the Great Sioux Nation. We seek healing and the realization of justice with the people of this land who live on in their descendants, present-day members of the Monacan Indian Nation, the Patawomac Indian Tribe of Virginia, and the Piscataway Indian Nation. We honor the ancestors as we move toward healing so that all together shall one day know full justice. Welcome to our special Pride Month service, where we will call forth beloveds and ancestors to celebrate the blessings of LGBTQ plus people and their allies. Our chalice lighting words this morning, which Kate Heilig chose, are from the Director of Religious Exploration in Tallahassee, Florida, where I used to serve. So these are from H.P. Rivers. Blessed are the wanderers seeking affirmation. Blessed are the worshipers praying from closets, pulpits, pews, and hardship. Blessed are the lovers of leaving family and familiarity, leaving tables where love is not being served. And blessed are those who stay. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. Blessed are the queer disciples of truth, living, breathing, sacred reflections of divine love.
Welcome to Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. I am Nancy Melito. My pronouns are she, her, and I am happy to be your worship associate today. This congregation is a welcoming and inclusive community that seeks to create a more just and compassionate world. If you are new to Accotink and would like to talk more about this church, please be sure to reach out to me, our minister, Reverend William Levwood, or one of today's greeters. Whether you're a longtime member or a newcomer or something in between, we encourage you to stay for our social hour, online and in person, immediately after this service. We're so delighted that you decided to join us today. Welcome.
Our first reading is an introduction to Queer Heroes, written by Arabelle Sicardi. The best advice I have ever been given is to be the person I needed when I was younger. I fantasized that a hero would walk through the door and save me when I was being bullied. When I looked back on those days, I feel proud that I have tried to become that saving hero. As a child, I would get lost in the pages of fantasy books, searching for people who looked and felt like me. But they were always few and far between. The ones I did find, I held on to. I used them as an anchor to keep me in pace, to find my spot in the world. Reading about the lives of people who were as confused, scared, and curious about the world as me made me feel less like I was failing at being a person. They were the family I needed to get me through hard days, but most of them were fictional. It wasn't until I became a teenager that I realized that there are countless real-life heroes that I can learn from and love. For a long time, queer people, especially queer and trans people of color, were considered to be too marginal and too different to be included in history books. This is changing slowly, but it's still hard to find our stories, and queer people are still victimized all over the world. As a community, we've worked really hard to turn things people hate about us into things we love about ourselves, even the word queer. For a long time, it was a word used to try to make people feel ashamed of their identity. To be queer meant to be different in a way that seemed dangerous and bad. This isn't the case now. I'm proud to be different, and I wouldn't have it any other way. The people in these pages and so many other queer protesters and activists alongside them paved the way for us to be ourselves. This book is my attempt at honoring the heroes who came before us and the ones who are still around today. Consider this as an introduction to your extended family from all around the world. We're united by the very fact of our humanity, but also by the way we love and exist in the world. LGBTQ plus people have taken care of each other when no one else thought we mattered. Loving in the face of hate is an act of bravery. Every single person in this book stood their ground when it could have been safer to try to be somebody else. None of these people woke up as heroes. They faced trouble and danger and persevered through all kinds of situations, even if it hurt. They didn't know if what they were trying to do would work or make a difference, but they all tried anyway. There's no one way to do good in the world. Everyone in this book is wildly different. Who knows? Maybe one day you'll be the hero someone else thinks about when they're lost. Maybe someone will write a book about you, and I hope they do.
Welcome to Brightly Storytime. I'm Miss Linda. Today, we're going to read a story about love. Sometimes, girls love girls, and boys love boys. The rainbow flag is a symbol of this love, and the story we're reading tells its history. It's called Pride, the story of Harvey Milk and the Rainbow Flag, written by Rob Sanders, illustrated by Stephen Salerno. You have to give them hope. Hope for a better world, hope for a better tomorrow. Harvey Milk was an ordinary man, but he had an extraordinary dream. That dream would change history. Harvey dreamed that everyone, even gay people, would have equality. He dreamed that he and his friends would be treated like everyone else. He dreamed that one day people would be able to live and love as they pleased. With his New York accent, Harvey talked to everyone about his dream. His voice boomed, his body bounced with energy and excitement. Some people listened. A few agreed. Most did not. But Harvey's big voice and his big dream wouldn't be stopped. He discovered that the best way to change laws was to help make laws. In 1977, Harvey Milk took a big step toward that dream when he became one of the first openly gay people to be elected to political office in the United States. Harvey and his friends planned marches to protest inequality and unfair laws. And just days before one of the marches, Harvey had an idea. A symbol, he thought. We need a symbol that shows who we are and how we feel. Something to carry during the march. Something to make people feel they're part of a community. Something to give people hope. Something extraordinary. Harvey knew an artist who could help, Gilbert Baker. Harvey asked. Gilbert said, "We need a flag." Volunteers arrived to help Gilbert's design come to life. Together, they dipped fabric into large barrels filled with vivid, vibrant dyes. They cut and pieced and sewed until Harvey, Gilbert, and the other activists had a flag with 8 colorful stripes, a flag that Harvey hoped would give hope. On June 25, 1978, when it was time for the march, a breeze stirred in San Francisco. The flag unfurled. Rights are won only by those who make their voices heard. The wind blew. The flag fluttered, flapped, and flew. A rainbow, as bright and unique as the men and women who walked behind it, led the march. Harvey and the people asked for equality. They asked to be treated like everyone else. They asked to live and love as they pleased. They hoped the march would make a difference. Harvey was proud of the flag and proud of himself. He hoped others could be proud too. 5 months later, on the morning of November 27, 1978, Harvey and the mayor of San Francisco, George Moscone, were assassinated. Their lives were taken by a man who did not think like Harvey, or feel like him, or love like him. The flag did not fly on that dark, sad night. Instead, thousands and thousands of people marched silently, carrying candles. The candlelight wove through the streets of San Francisco, up and down hills and around city buildings. A mile of glowing candlelight in honor of 2 lives lost. That could have been the end of Harvey's dream and the colorful flag. But it wasn't. More rainbow flags were created. Some of the colors changed. 8 stripes became 6 stripes. But the meaning of the flag did not change. It was a flag of equality. More and more people began to think of the flag as their flag. They began to feel pride. They began to have hope. In 1994, Gilbert Baker designed another rainbow flag. This one was larger than all the rest. Women and men, side by side, carried the flag. A proud, mile-long rainbow floating through New York City. The flag wove through the streets, up and down avenues and boulevards and around city buildings. The people demanded equality. They demanded to be treated like everyone else. They demanded to live and love as they pleased. They were proud. They had hope. They would make a difference. I ask for the movement to continue, for the movement to grow. More rainbow flags were made. Some were printed on bumper stickers and t-shirts. Others were hoisted onto lampposts on Halsted Street in Chicago. One was hung in the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. Soon, the rainbow flag was flying in other countries, like Brazil, England, Israel, Russia, Singapore, and Turkey. The rainbow flag now unfurled on farms, in suburbs, and in cities. The flag flew proudly outside public buildings, hotels, shops, restaurants, churches, and homes. And once, on June 26, 2015, the White House was awash in the colors of the rainbow flag. Equality, pride, hope, love. Harvey's dream became a flag for us all. Maybe you've seen the rainbow flag hanging around your neighborhood. Now you know, it's much more than just a pretty flag. It's a symbol of love and equality for millions of people around the world.
I'm Nancy Davis. My grandsons, Judah and Noah, have 4 grandfathers. While I love all 4, 2 of them, Peter and Dan, have been a special blessing in my life. When I started coming to Accotink in the 1990s, I became more enlightened and welcoming to members of the LGBTQ+ community through living our faith and our UU principles. But getting to know my daughter's father-in-law, Peter, and his partner, Dan, further increased my understanding that we are all human, and we can love and respect one another no matter who we love or how we self-identify. Peter and Dan moved to Seattle when same-sex marriage laws started changing across the country so that they could marry, and also to be closer to their growing family. When my husband Phil and I visit our Seattle daughters and grandsons, a highlight of our trip is getting together with Peter and Dan over coffee or lunch. No labels separate us, and we talk and we laugh together as 4 older and wiser family members. Before we know it, 2 hours have passed, and it's time to say goodbye until our next visit. We've tried, but we haven't yet changed the world or found answers to our children's parenting questions, but we always find so much common ground in our time together. Maybe it was the morning that Grampy Peter and I peeled shrimp together ahead of the celebration to follow our grandson's bris that cemented our friendship. Years later, at the beginning of the pandemic, I took my sewing machine out of mothballs and sewed masks for Peter, Dan, and the rest of the family. Dan, a retired executive with American Express, said he was inspired by my hand-sewn masks, and he bought himself a sewing machine. And now he sends us amazing gifts created from his new hobby of quilting. For many of us, it's these day-to-day interactions that make us family and friends, regardless of the labels and the legislation and the book banning that are meant to divide us. Thank you, Peter and Dan, for this blessing, and thank you to this congregation, a welcoming and inclusive community that seeks to create a just and compassionate world.
One of my best friends, let's call her Brenda, is lesbian. I love talking to her because she connects on a deep level. She's a good conversationalist, but also wants to know what you were really thinking and worrying about down deep. I let her tell you more in her own words. All my life, she says, I was told that homosexuals were doomed and God hates us. Every Sunday in church, I would pray for the feelings and confusions to go away. I hated myself. One Sunday, as I was praying to be rid of this burden, I heard God say very clearly, I have made you as you are. All my self-hatred disappeared, and I experienced such relief. I felt giddy, but there I was, a 30-year-old woman with 3 small children and a husband, and bills to pay and all that. What to do? Psychotherapy was helpful, especially since my parents were not stellar examples of parenting. There was a lot of neglect and some physical abuse. When I came out to my mother, by letter, of course, who has that kind of face-to-face courage with their parents? She responded by sending me a very special birthday card that over several pages said things like, love you happy, love you sad, love you laughing, love you mad. And at the bottom, she wrote in her own handwriting, love you any way you are. She hated the word queer, so we didn't talk about labels, but she instantly loved my lesbian partner, who later took care of her during the last 4 months of her life. Life is so much better now for Brenda. And one more thing I'll say, When it finally became possible for Brenda to marry her long-term partner, it was a joyous occasion and my privilege to sign as a witness on her marriage contract, or ketubah.
Who inspired me to support LGBTQ plus issues? And I finally learned how to say that really fast. There have been several people, both real and fictional, who come to mind. I settled on two people who have made the biggest difference in my life, and I am happy to say, continue to be part of my life and therefore are part of me. Having been raised in the UU Church, the one thing I was not was a bigot. So when it came to equal rights for people who didn't fit the conventional mold, I saw no problem with that. Who people were attracted to didn't ask anything of me, nor did it hurt anyone else, so I didn't understand the emotion of those who were vehemently against something so simple. But I didn't have any close alphabet community friends. I understood LGBTQ plus issues as one more part of American life, striving to leave the 1950s behind and reluctantly dragging itself into the era of women's lib, black power, and the pill. Then I met Laura, and we became close friends. I had no problem with her orientation, but what did shake me up was what she explained to me, the perils of legally being a second-class citizen. And what she told me made my blood boil. Why should my kind, thoughtful, really whip-smart friend be at risk of losing her job, be treated like dirt by medical professionals, excuse me, and be denied loans and housing? What did being lesbian have anything to do with any of this? How phenomenally medieval. Next, we'll be burning witches. All right, I don't see any torches, okay. Then Laura met the love of her life, and my one friend became two, and the issue of marriage equality became even more immediate. Issues that were abstract became very real. What would happen if one of them was in the hospital and the other one was forbidden to take care of their medical care? Perhaps wasn't even allowed to see them. God's forbid, if one of them died, they couldn't even hold a proper funeral. So, my inspiration is my wonderful friend, Laura, and her soulmate, Ariana. They are the reason I can keep going when people say stupid, ignorant, or prejudiced things, such as, well, I can't go to a lesbian wedding. After all, they won't have any children. Really? Did this person hear herself? So, for instance, all those marriages of people beyond childbearing years, such as my own in-laws, those marriages were not valid? What kind of stupidity is that? I also have to tell you that I shamelessly use my friends to blindside thoughtless people. How many times have I been getting along famously with someone when they tell me they don't approve of same-sex marriage? They never have a good reason, but my favorite comeback is to tell them, well, my best friends are a lesbian couple who have been together for 30 years. And I don't see how they're hurting anyone by being married. That usually puts a stop to that nonsense. If I'm lucky, I can see the wheels turning as they try to process this new angle to their thinking. In conclusion, though there are many personalities who have inspired me over the years, it is Laura and Ariana who educated me and keep me on my allied toes. I thank the two of them for coming into my life and for steadfastly being there for lo these many years, and I hope for being in my life for many more.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
For this morning, I was asked to speak about a person in LGBTQ history who has influenced me in a positive way. They say talk about what you know, so rather than a person, I would like to talk about an organization of which I am part. This organization has influenced me, and by this point in time, may have very likely influenced you as well. By now, you may have guessed that I'm referring to the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington. Our story actually begins with the formation of the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus after the assassination of Harvey Milk in 1978. They held an impromptu memorial service and began to hold concerts shortly after. In June of 1981, the SFGMC performed at the Kennedy Center and inspired a group led by Marsha Pearson, a friend of the Washington gay community, to start a chorus of our own. We held our first rehearsal in the old Gay Community Center on Church Street Northwest on June 28, 1981, notably the 12th anniversary of the Stonewall riots. The very next week, an article buried in the back of the New York Times bore the headline, "Rare Cancer Seen in 41 Homosexuals." It seems we were called to raise our voices from the start of the chorus's inception. Despite the early days of the chorus weathering the AIDS pandemic and difficulties of finding rehearsal spaces, the chorus continued to grow and being a voice for those who could not speak out for themselves. The singers of the chorus have regularly been front and center not only for our causes like the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell or the Marriage Equality Act, but also a proud supporter of Black Lives Matter. As we continue to grow, we have been invited to share our message on the steps of the Supreme Court, presidential inaugurations, concerts at the Kennedy Center, and even the White House. During the 2018 Northern Equality Tour, the chorus came face to face with the Westboro Baptist Church, and rather than letting hate be the louder voice, our combined harmony drowned out the derisive rhetoric of those who would try to belittle us. This video can still be found on YouTube. So how does a group like this influence me? This group is one which not only demands musical excellence from me, but is also a vehicle for social justice work. Our current mission states, the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington, D.C. sings to inspire equality and inclusion with musical performances and education promoting justice and dignity for all. Through the power of well-rehearsed song, people will sit up and listen to our vital message. Whether I feel like a GTG, good time girl, or an SMQ, serious music queen, I got to perform works that feed my soul as well as spread the mission of the chorus. From Orff's Carmina Burana to Charlie Small's Brand New Day from The Wiz, I get to sing loud, confident, and proud under the masterful maestra, Dr. Thea Kano. Though I am just a small part of GMCW, I am part of a musical movement that amounts to something greater. This movement is not confined to just the 4 quadrants of our fair district, but rather it is a worldwide phenomenon. GMCW is part of a greater umbrella of choruses around the world known as GALA, the Gay and Lesbian Association of Choruses. What I do under this greater organization allows those who are afraid to come out, questioning who they are, or facing persecution to see a beacon of hope in the form of a knowing melody. Together, we are all marching on for a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Cricket Hall gives us a rainbow blessing. May the drag stage rise to meet you. May the world rise to accept and embrace you. May the rainbow of love enfold you. May your fluidity never be hindered. May your pronouns always be supported and your dead name forgotten. May those you invite into your life remain loyal. May your chosen family lift you up and catch you when you need it. May you be able to catch yourselves and others when they need it. May you remember sensitivity is not weakness, but instead a great strength welling up inside you. And until we meet again, May you remember that you are loved and you are divine.
Hi, I'm Kate McDivitt, and I don't have pronouns for myself. That there are so many queer folks who have inspired me is a great problem to have. As someone normally indecisive, choosing just one person to speak about proved impossible. So here are some I feel blessed to have learned from, though this is by no means a complete list. The first person to pop into my mind was Bayern Rustin, who taught me you don't have to be just one thing in life. An organizer of Freedom Rides and the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, he was a leader in many social movements. He brought his Quaker values of equality and nonviolence to the fight for civil rights, workers' rights, and gay rights. He also served on humanitarian missions in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Haiti. A tenor vocalist, he sang in a Broadway musical, performed with a gospel and vocal harmony group, and had several albums. The second person I thought of was philosopher and mathematician Alan Turing, who taught me that one person's thoughts can be powerful enough to change the world. To quote a tote bag I own, Alan Turing fought Nazis with his big gay brain. As a computer science major in college, his work creating a computer to break codes during World War II and his role as the father of artificial intelligence were in my textbooks. But of course, the textbooks left out his persecution for homosexual acts and the chemical castration he underwent as an alternative to prison. Named after him, the Turing test is used to identify how intelligent a computer is. The Turing Award has been given every year since 1966 to leaders in the field of computer science. And the UK's 2017 Alan Turing law retroactively pardons men convicted because of their sexuality. The list I was making of queer heroes quickly grew from there. Sassafras Lowry, author and dog trainer, taught me it's okay to be playful as an adult. Freddie Mercury, lead singer of Queen, taught me to experiment with different creative pursuits. Sally Ride, first American woman in space, taught me to be curious, and that even though adventures are scary, they're worth going on anyway. Jackson Bird, advocate and former Harry Potter Alliance spokesman, taught me about authenticity and also what can and can't be turned into a waffle. Florence Nightingale, pioneer in nursing, taught me the dignity of caring for others. The entire cast of characters in Rent taught me the beauty and importance of found families. And Maya Kobabe, writer of the graphic memoir Genderqueer, taught me I'm not alone in how I view my gender and sexuality. Thank you for letting us share today about so many individuals who have brought blessings into our lives. I'd like to end with some wise words from self-described Black lesbian mother warrior poet Audre Lorde, who said, "The sharing of joy, whether physical, emotional, psychic, or intellectual, forms a bridge between the sharers, which can be the basis for understanding much of what is not shared between them, and lessens the threat of their difference."
And we now come to the end of our service. So, though we will extinguish our chalice flame, we carry within us what we kindled, the light of inspiration, the warmth of compassion, the fire of commitment. May we bring these gifts into our lives and share them radiantly out in the world. And now, if you would please rise, and if you would please simply extend your hands out. I invite you to join me now in our community blessing with the words of David Bumbaugh. This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences and beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together in spite of time, death, and the space between the stars. We pause now in silent witness to that unity.
Thank you for joining us today to celebrate the blessings of pride. May you be for another person that hero that shows them who and what they can be, how they are sacred and divine as they are.